I've been tracking the silicon cycles for a while now, and you need to realize something. Your smartphone didn't actually stop evolving. It just stopped needing a screen to control your life. Look, consider the 3-nanometer chip. It is, quite literally, one of the most complex things humans have ever built. I mean, we're talking about billions of transistors etched into a space so small it actually defies logic. Yet, we use this godlike engineering to shave, half a second off the time it takes to open an app? Or to render a digital dog filter on a video that'll be forgotten in 10 seconds flat. It's a bloody massive waste of potential. But here's the thing. It's also a brilliant smokescreen. You see, the peak smartphone era ended years ago, whilst most of us were still arguing about things like notch sizes and refresh rates. We entered the silicon plateau, a place where hardware updates became so iterative, so incremental, that they essentially stopped mattering. But mate, don't be fooled by the lack of physical change. The gadget you're holding right now, it's no longer a tool designed for your utility. It's become a legacy interface for something far more pervasive. Think about it. It's a bridge, a link between the physical world and an invisible algorithmic architecture. And it's slowly making the screen itself redundant. Look, we aren't just reaching the end of a product cycle. We're witnessing the migration of the digital soul, moving from the device in your hand to the environment all around you. The era of the slab is over, and the transition happened whilst you were busy scrolling. For over a decade, you and I, we've been sold a very specific dream. A slab of glass that gets marginally thinner, slightly faster, and remarkably more expensive every September. We've been told that more megapixels and the gimmick of folding glass were the endgame of human productivity. Look, it was a brilliant distraction. Because whilst we were all marveling at the luster of 120 Hz displays and edge-to-edge OLEDs, the silicon inside these devices was being quietly optimized for something else entirely. I want you to look past the marketing fluff for a moment. We have transitioned from an era of CPU-dominant tasks, where the processor waited for your command, to an era of NPU-led ambient monitoring. In the old world, your phone was a tool that sat idle until you picked it up. In this world, the hardware has become a sensory node, designed to model your behavior whilst the screen is completely dark. Think of it like this. Your old smartphone was a digital typewriter. Your current smartphone is a sophisticated surveillance suite that just happens to make calls. Every high-end chip from the last 3 years has been designed to prioritize background processing over foreground utility. The neural engine is not there to make your photos look better. It is there to process the massive amounts of telemetry data your device collects every second you are not using it. The engineering is quite literally brilliant, but it has outgrown its own user interface. I mean, we are carrying around supercomputers capable of trillions of operations per second, yet we still use them to scroll through vertical feeds. The industry has hit a ceiling where the screen is no longer the most important part of the device. It is just a legacy window into an invisible, algorithmic architecture that is increasingly operating without your permission or your input. But that is not even the most unsettling part of this shift. Because once the device stops needing your active input to function, the very definition of what a phone is supposed to be starts to dissolve into something much more invasive. Welcome to the era of ambient extraction. You see, for you and I, the smartphone was once a distinct tool. You picked it up, you used it, and then you put it down. But that boundary, it's evaporated.
We are moving into a phase of ambient computing, where the phone is no longer just a device in your pocket. It's a background process running in your life. Now, look, whilst this sounds like a brilliant evolution in convenience, for the working professional, it is actually quite daunting. Your cognitive autonomy is quite literally being auctioned off in real time as your device harvests environmental data to predict your next move. It is no longer about what you want to do with the technology. It's about what the technology predicts you will do next. Think of it as a silent partner that never sleeps. In fact, the very idea of an off switch has become a bit of a myth, right? See, on any modern device, hitting power off does not actually kill the circuits. It simply puts the hardware into a low power state, dedicated to Find My network telemetry and background tracking. Your device is never truly dark. It's always talking to the infrastructure around it, even when you think it is dead. We have spent years demanding a frictionless world, but we failed to realize that friction was often the only thing giving us privacy. We have built a seamless digital cage, and the bars are made of the very convenience we craved. But look, it gets even more unsettling when you look at the specific physical sensors being used to bridge the final gap between your private thoughts and the global machine. Because the next step in this evolution, it doesn't even require a screen at all. Look, I think we've been looking at this all wrong. We've been waiting for a spectacular failure, a crash and burn of the mobile industry. But that isn't what's happening. The smartphone is dead.
Think about it for a second. When was the last time you actually turned your phone off? Not just silent, but completely off. The concept is becoming alien because the system is designed to be inescapable. Is a future without an off button worth the convenience? I think you already know the answer, and it's quite a daunting one. Look, if you value your attention, it's time to look past the glass. The smartphone didn't fail. It won. It successfully colonized our time and our focus, and now it's ready to disappear into the walls. I'm curious to know where you draw the line, though. Are you comfortable with a world where the technology is always on? Or do you miss the friction of the old world? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And look, if you want to keep tracking the evolution of the machine with me, you should probably subscribe to the channel.